Red October here. Today is July 7th, Thursday. Was listening to local talk radio about a shooting incident. Not the one in Baton Rouge. It was another one, but I could never hear who the victim or the family was. And then they were just talking about change and, how can we move toward that. And then I started thinking about some other topics. But I did think about this. I know a lot of you guys and women are in the private sector. Maybe some of you have working ties with the government, state, local, county, whatever that may be. Now let's just say that I am a contractor with a government entity or state entity or maybe a county or city. I'll let you fill in the blank, okay? And when you work around a government or state entity long enough, I'm not talking about weeks and months, I'm talking years. You spend enough time around these guys, and the guys I'm referring to are the people that work for the government or the state or whatever that fill in the blank you may want to put. But when you work with these guys, years in, years out, and I'm talking 10, 15 plus, you really start to understand how government works. And I don't think a lot of folks here understand that. And it's not to say that there are not a lot of smart people here, because I think all my subs, the ones that comment like all the time, I think you guys are awesome. I think you're level-headed. I think you're smart individuals. But there's a lot of people out in the private sector world that just don't get it. They don't understand why government works the way they do. Now, there's one or two of you out there that I have in mind that have ties to the government or state entity, and you know who you are. But for everybody else, let me just explain a little bit to you. In the private sector, as you know, things just move faster, right? We need a new copier. We need more supplies. We need a new vendor. You make contacts, you make business contacts with other places that can make those things happen for you. You throw some money around and things are moving, right? Easy, right? Makes sense, You need it, you get it. In the government, state, things don't work like that. There's a lot of red tape to go through, and I mean red tape. You have to submit your request to your manager, supervisor, director. All right, they have to look at the budget. They submit it off to accounting or finance, whichever, and that can take not days. It could take weeks sometimes. Maybe even months, before they get back and say, well, it's not in the budget. While all this time you've been kind of making ends meet on low supplies, on a copier that doesn't work. And while the employee there is like, this makes no sense. I need this. I need these supplies. I need a new copier. I need a new computer to do this job that they are hiring me to do. They're paying me to do. They expect me to do. Government doesn't work like that. The way it works is, and this is related to we the people and our government. The people don't tell the people in charge what they like, what they want the bosses to do. It's the other way around. The bosses tell the employees what to do. Now, I know some of you are going to be like, oh, wait a minute, Red. That's not the way it works. It's we the people. We tell them what to do. And I agree with you. You're right. I agree with you 100%. But in the government world, that's not the way it works. And their mindset of, you don't tell me what to do. There's a suggestion box, or you tell the low man on the podium, your senior lead or your supervisor, you tell them how you feel. And that supervisor never channels that message back up to the to the big bosses. They just kind of say, well, okay, I'll pass that on and we'll take in your suggestion. Their job is to not say, hey, old Joe Blow in the warehouse is saying, well, you know, he thinks that if we had better brooms, they'd get the job done faster. The boss would say, you know what, do they have brooms? Yeah, they do, but they're used. Well, tell them to use that. That is the way the government works. And as hard as it is to believe, that is the true fact. So when we sit there and we look at, you know, our politicians, which are the puppets to those above them in higher positions, like O'Killary, they are the ones that dictate the game. They're the ones that set the rules that all the other crooked politicians abide by. It's kind of like the old good old boys club. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, right? They're not going to indict each other on any charges. They're not going to throw each other under the bus because they need each other to keep that system in place. They need the left hand as much as the left hand needs the right hand. They need each other as much as they are on opposites end. They need each other to function, to keep that system going. So as much as we bicker and say, okay, my people get behind me on the left side and everybody else get on the right side, you have these two different parties that we all imagine and say, hey, my guy's going to represent me. And they do to some degree. But at the same time, they know not to throw the other person under the bus because they need each other. That is the way the government system works. And if you don't know, well, I'm telling you. It's hard to imagine that what sounds right, what makes common sense, what's a reasonable thought, a suggestion that says, hey, why don't we do things this way versus the way we're doing it, because we're wasting a lot of time and effort and money when we could focusing on getting this done a lot quicker. But aha, what is the secret? Why don't we do that? Why aren't they doing that? Because there's always an agenda that will mess that process up if it's changed for somebody that's in power. How do you think these state agencies and government entities find these contracts with the private sector to say, hey, we need a new road built here on this stretch of highway? And it goes not to the highest bidder, it goes to the lowest bidder. So you would think, hey, let's get the best company out there to do the job right so that it doesn't have to be done 6 months or a year later because there's cracks in the road. That's not the way the state works or the government. They go and they say, here's a bid, we need this done. Several contractors, companies, they come in and they're like, hey, we can do this job for, X number of dollars. The bigger companies are like, you know what, that's not enough money. I can do it, but it's this much. And then they weed down their choices to 2 or 3 people that kind of go back and forth and say, okay, well, I'll do it for this much. That guy's going to do it. And what happens is it ends up going to the lowest bidder, or the bidder that the contractor that will take the offer that the state or government's offering them to do the job. And like, yeah, I can do that. It's all smoke and mirrors. And then when the time comes to do the project, during the project, they're saying, well, we need more time. We need more money. We don't have enough workers. We didn't realize that there was a lot of hard rock in the ground that we weren't accounting for. Really? That's your job, isn't it? Right? Isn't your job to know these things? To know what you're getting into? And now you want more money? Another quick story. When it comes to government and state entities, and they have to hire a company to set up a new system that the agency wants to use, same thing. They go with the best bid that's out there. And the best bid is not always the best one to use. What happens is somebody comes in, they'll say, we'll do it for $2 million. the ball's rolling. They're like, okay, we got the best contract, best company for the price that we want to spend. And during the process, the company already gets their feet in there, in their hands, and they're like, hey, we're going to do this and this and this. And then the state or government comes and says, well, hey, we thought about a couple of other items we want to add to the process. They're like, oh, okay, that's going to be more money now. Or they know these things, a computer company, and they don't say any, hey, you're going to have problems because you don't have X, Y, and Z. And then when the system kicks off, when the state or government finds out, guess what happens? They're like, hey, there's a problem here. Well, the private company already knows that, the computer company. And so what they do is they're like, okay, well, we can come in there and fix it. We'll send some of our guys. But guess what? It's going to be more money. That's the way the stupidity of the state and government operates. And unfortunately, that's the world that we live in with these guys. This is why they don't want Trump, the establishment, the politicians in office. That's why they don't support Trump or want Trump in office, because they know he's going to shake up the game. He's going to get rid of a lot of that whole good old boys club. And not to say that he won't find himself in that position making new allies and say, okay, we're going to scratch that old system. Now we're going to bring in my system, which could be another corrupt system. Hell, I don't know. But it's something different than the established current party has in office. That they know that if Trump gets in office, that's going to mess up their game plan. Anyway, I got to go into work, guys. Have a great day. Red October out.